Daryl Boone, who is also a member of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, holding the rank of Inspector. I'll have him introduce himself a little more and tell us a bit about his background and his journey in the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force this far.
Okay, good morning to all who is listening. My name is Inspector Daryl Boone. I joined the organization on the 15th of October 2009. So it has been about, going for 16 years now?
Yes, yes,
And,
was the anniversary.
Yes, please.
Yes.
And just a fact there, Miss Odain and I trained together
Yes.
for the general public to know. Before becoming a police officer, I was a high school teacher. I taught at two high schools, Washi and Virgils High. In the force, I have had the opportunity to work in a plethora of different departments, mostly in the tactical field. I was in Nevis for a stint, so I did some work with CID in St. Kitts. I worked at traffic department. I worked at various outstations to include Sandy Point, Old Road, Charlestown in Nevis, Gingerland in Nevis. I would have been in charge of the task force in Nevis at some time. I would have worked at the police training school as an instructor. I would sometimes prosecute internally for the organization. I did a stint at the DPP's office as well as a prosecutor. And so it's quite a bit. I wear multiple hats when it's needed. But the journey has been good thus far. Yes, please.
Okay. You forgot to tell us where you're at now.
Well, presently I am Tactical Commander 2IC, in charge of all of the tactical units here on St. Kitts, to include the JESAT, Joint Security Operations Tactical Team, SSU, Special Services Unit, and what we call JUG Squad, the Anti-Narcotics Unit.
Thank you so much. It's also a pleasure to be here with you, Inspector Boone, my squaddy.
Yes, please.
This morning I want us to basically journey with Inspector Boone as he educate us on what the tactical do or is doing presently, and give us a little background of how they operate. It is important for the general public to know how every arm of the organization operates so that they can know who do I call, where do I call, who will be dealing with what. So, Inspector Boone, can you tell us a bit about the special, the tactical unit, also the tactical the force, and how it fits into the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force? Okay,
so the three departments would be JESAT, Joint Security Operations Tactical Team, and that comprises of a mixture of police officers, Defence Force personnel, and persons from Customs Enforcement as well. So that is a mixture. Then we have the Special Services Unit, the SSU, and then we have the Anti-Narcotics Unit, JUG Squad. So let me break down what each of these departments do. The SSU, I would dare say, is the tactical arm of the government. Note I did not say the tactical arm of the police force, but of the government. Why the government? Because the main role of the SSU would be to service the government at material time. So let's say, for example, you have a riot. Those personnel should be prepared to get into their riot gear and respond. When it comes to any deposits, money from different institutions for the government, that team is responsible for that. It is considered an elite team, so they have to be tactically trained. As it relates to the police force, they service the police force in being that tactical arm that can respond in high-risk situations. If backup is needed because the patrol officers can't handle it, then they will be called in for that. Whether it's to execute search warrants, anything that is high risk, dealing with internal aggression, is where the SSU will mainly play a part of it. For external aggression, that is where the Defence Force should come in by law. When it comes to the Anti-Narcotics Unit, which we call the JUG Squad, this team is mainly engaged in the investigation arm of illicit drug movement through, whether coming in or going out of the Federation. it becomes a bit diverse now because, as you know, because of transnational crime and because of certain issues relative to the borders in certain jurisdictions, you have a host of illicit drugs passing through our region. And that can pose a challenge. So that team is specific to investigating those type of incidents and or assisting to curbing, because we can't totally eradicate, but we can as much as possible limit the amount of drugs that will pass through our federation illegally. And so that team is responsible for that. The JSOT, Joint Security Operations Tactical Team, was a team instituted there about perhaps maybe the early part of 2023. That was a spring-off from what you called the anti-gang unit. And the reason for the mixture is that we know that there's always a host of information, but sometimes that information is segmented. And in the spirit of having that level of collaboration between the different agencies, that unit forms a major component of keeping that collaboration and having that arm. So if there's an issue that is relative to customs, that team can function with someone from customs leading. If for some reason we end up at a stage where the defense force has to be activated, then their soldiers are part of that team. And in most cases, we know because we are in a peaceful society, the police will take lead in most things. And so that is the aim of that team. But that team also has 3 different arms. So there is the training arm, where a lot of training is done. So we coordinate training for different units, specialized training. There is the operational arm, where they execute search warrants, whatever the case is that they need to do operationally, whether it be overt or covert. And then we have the fusion center, which is attached to that team as well, which is based at the office of the National Security Advisor. And so that's the 3 arms of that particular team. And that's it in a nutshell for the breakdown of the relevant teams that we have within the tactical department at present.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yes, please.
A very diverse groups.
Yes,
Very
please.
diverse groups. Inspector Boone, what type of training you have to undergo when someone hear about the JSOP or the anti-gang, the SSU? What type of training? Is there any special training that you need to undergo in order to be a part of these departments?
Well, as a standard across the region, not just in St. Kitts, it is recommended that personnel who will take part in these type of units would have at minimum the RSS basic training. So a bit of a history. Across the region, you will hear the term SSU in most of the countries that you go to. I think it was in sometime in 1982 that the first MOU would have been signed between the countries, as it were at the time, with the RSS. It is only after St. Kitts would have reached into independence that we, after the fact, signed on to that MOU, and then later down there was a treaty which would have been signed. A part of the aim of the RSS is really to have most of the units within the region battle ready. So all of the SSUs across the region goes through the very same training. So if, for example, there is something happening in a different country and the RSS is mobilized, the RSS is made up of personnel from these departments who are trained the exact same way, who can function in any country at any time. So that was really the idea behind the framework of having the SSU at the material time.
Thank you so much, Inspector Boone. How is the tactical unit different to the CID, the Beat and Patrol, or any other specialized unit?
So I will tell you what the reality is, and I will tell you what the reality should be. At present, the tactical department does most and many things, some of which generally should not be what the assigned role is, but because of the situation in terms of manpower, you have to spread wide. And so at present, the tactical arm will assist all of the departments. And when I say all, I
know.
mean all of the departments. Any department that needs any assistance, they tap into the tactical arm. Why? Maybe because for the tactical arm, it's a bit more rigid. They have to be a bit more disciplined. And there is not much leeway for excuses when it comes to the
Right.
tactical arm.
That's true.
Because when you go out there and you have to execute, you don't want to come back to the base and have to report to someone's family that you don't have this person coming back with you. And so it is for those reasons that it has to be a bit more rigid. But the tactical arm should be ready to respond to any incident, any issue. So let's say, for example, there's a patrol team out and they come in contact with, let's say, someone who is attempting to rob a supermarket. And that person has now enclosed themselves within the premises. Now you have an active shooter situation, possibly hostages inside. The tactical team should be ready and willing to mobilize, go, do an extraction if needs be, and in whatever shape or form mitigate against these circumstances, so much so that we have as minimal casualties as possible. And so the training of the tactical arm is really to deal with these high-risk situations. And so how it should be is that the tactical arm should be constantly training. As times change, as circumstances change, we have to change with the times. And so the tactical arm should really be doing a lot of training. When it comes to working with the different departments, in most cases, let's say CID is running an investigation and they're having some difficulty getting a person of interest. They will contact or reach out to the tactical arm, and in short notice, we will apprehend that person. If it is a case where they need some boots on the ground to assist because you have a crime scene that is attracting a lot of personnel and can become problematic based on what would have taken place, the tactical arm must respond. And so, really and truly, it's a case where you will always see the tactical arm, even though we don't have the numbers like people think we do, but you'll always see them around.
It is real because even for me at NIT, I rely on the tactical as well, especially when I want certain intel on certain things that is not clear. And you are one of the persons I would reach out to, and in speed time, I get the information that I needed. So I must commend you guys for the hard work. Yes, it has shown, it is showing. Gonna go to the duties and responsibilities. You have said a lot, so we're gonna break it down. What are the main duties and responsibilities of the tactical unit on a day-to-day? Take us through to a day-to-day. I know it's different arms, so
yes.
Yeah, you can briefly take us through. I know you can't say everything.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'll do my very best in that regard.
Yes.
So let's start with the SSU. So on a day-to-day basis, the SSU, outside of having these obligations tactically, we do service a lot of areas in what we deem or call static post duties. And so you will find the presence of the SSU at the airport, for example. That's a must. You will find someone from the tactical department at government headquarters because you know how important that area is. You will find someone from the SSU at the High Court. You will find someone from the SSU at the Magistrate Court. You will even find persons from the SSU in between the schools relative to what's happening in and around the schools. And that has nothing to do with the patrols that has to be done every single day, and that has nothing to do with the escorts that must be done, government escorts that have to be done every single day. And they still have to find time to train. They still have to find time to do operations, and so it's a lot of work. And if I tell you what the strength is, you'll ask, well, how are we getting so much work done? But when you have persons who are committed to the task and who understand that, hey, you know what, we just have to do this. We have to find a way to get it done. Because in any organization, there will be issues. What we cannot do is labor on the issues.
Right.
We have to find a way to mitigate against the issues and get the task completed. And so that is what we aim to do from the tactical arm.
Yes, Scotty, we don't look at the problem, we look at the solution.
Correct. Because it's very easy for someone to say, look, here is the problem. But how many persons come with a suggestion
Yes.
or with a solution?
Yes.
When it comes to the GESOT arm, that arm is more operationalized because you have a mix of the agencies. It's more into operations. And so that arm handles a bit more covert operations. Of course, it is intel driven because we have found that we should not, in this day and age, decide that, you know what, you wake up this morning, let me just search this person. No, it doesn't work that way. And because you want to make sure that everyone's right is respected, we have developed criterias and SOPs which will guide us as to how do we go about operationalizing, how do we go about selecting targets, how do we go about doing certain things which I may not be able to expressly say.
Yeah.
But we have put the relevant things in place to ensure that if a question is asked by the AG's office, by the court, by the magistrate, by the judge, we can justify all of the actions and explain and give rationale to how this became in effect at the material time. As it pertains to Drug Squad, it's the very same. Most of what these departments do, you will not really see it until after the fact. So you might hear of this person arrested and caught with a firearm or some drugs or this or that. Well, I tell people all the time, the task of these persons who are involved in illegal activity is to not get caught. The task of police is to catch those persons. Right. And because of technology, because of different strategies in place, because of diversification, you have lots of people coming to our territory that is advanced, as it were, in terms of how the criminal networks operate. And so we have to ensure that we are even at the same level or beyond. And so it takes a lot of time, effort, to get certain operations up and running and to be successful. But persons will only hear about the success. They will not know all of the work that is being put in place to get to that level. And so I can tell you that the guys are really, really working. And I'm not certain if persons are paying attention, but you can see a steady rise in terms of criminals being apprehended, in terms of persons being caught with certain things. That is because we are deepening and strengthening our infrastructure as to how we go about addressing certain situations. And as time goes by, it will only get better. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Inspector Boone. We're going to break and we're going to pay some bills and then we're going to come right back. Feel free to call in and, you engage Inspector Boone as he are tasked with the different arms of the organization. You can ask him whatever questions that you relative to what we're speaking about. So we'll be right back.
Are you a small business owner with big dreams? Citizenship by Investment, in partnership with the First Federal Credit Union, is awarding 25 grants of $10,000 each to help small businesses grow and succeed. Apply now by visiting the CIU website at ciu.gov.kn/grants. But don't wait, the deadline is Friday, October 17th, 2025. Seize this opportunity to elevate your business and thrive.
For life's finest moments, celebrate them with Skoal Premium Lager. Pure malt, pure class, pure perfection. Skoal, class and perfection in a bottle.
At ZIZ, we want to take a moment to salute our small business owners and encourage you to support them. Our small business owners are always hard at work providing quality goods and services to you. They also provide employment for many and can be counted on to give back to our communities. Today and every day, we salute our small business owners and we say thank you for the opportunity to provide advertising services to you. If you're a small business, call us at 465-2621 to join our family of small business advertisers. Call us 465-2621. You'll be glad you did.
Good morning to everyone and welcome back to Policing with You. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane. With me, I have Inspector Daryl Boone. We have been educating the listening and viewing audience about the tactical unit in the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. You feel free, the lines are open. I'll go right back to the questions, Inspector Boone. We were talking about the duties and responsibilities of the tactical arm. Can you share what teamwork and coordination looks like between the tactical unit and other law enforcement agencies or branches?
Okay. So before it was a case where you had a different tactical arms, but they were not as in sync. Since I would have gone to the units, we have changed that. And so there is now a bit more cohesion amongst the units.
Yes.
And we work in tandem. And so it's not a case where the left does not know what the right is doing. So when it comes to internally that level of cohesion, we put certain things in place to facilitate that bonding, that expedico, where we exercise together, we participate in the health walks, we have social activities, a lot of them we try to have, even though it's very small sometimes, and we find ways to recognize those persons within who are doing good work. And so that is how we keep that esprit de corps between the tactical arms. Even though they may have different duties at the time, we find a way to come together. In terms of operationalizing the departments, we do it together as well. And so it's not a case where you may just have just one unit operating. It's a case where you'll have either 2 or 3 operating at the same time. And that is to show support if needed, or if something happens and the situation is escalated, there's enough persons on the ground to assist. When it comes to the rest of the organization, how do we develop that level of cohesion? Well, they say we are one call away. That's really how it is. Someone may just send a message and say, look, we need this, we need that, or call and say, Inspector Boone, Superintendent Edwards, we need this, we need that, and we put things in place. Don't ask us how we get it done, but we put things in place to facilitate. In most cases, you will find that that level of collaboration comes because as an organization, we have a strategic group. And so we meet every, well, I wouldn't say what day of the week, but we meet once a week, and we discuss issues affecting crime, the Federation, and how do we mitigate against these issues. And in this meeting, we will decide which arm of the police force at the material time is needed to assist in fixing this issue, which units need to collaborate with other units, and in our next sitting, we provide the resolve. And so this was the issue then. This was done. Is it working? Yes, it's working. If it's not working, what can we do next? So we strategize. And that is why you are seeing much greater turnover when it comes to a lot of issues being addressed and how speedily they are addressed, in fact. And so it is because of these strategies that are put in place internally why you will have an uptick, as it were, in the level of collaboration and efficiency.
Thank you so much, Inspector Boone. We're going to move to the community and the public perception of the tactical unit. Many people hear of the tactical unit. I'm sure persons are listening and think high risk or dangerous mission. What would you want the public to know about the human side of your work?
Yes, and you are so correct, because in most times, to be quite honest, the level of engagement you will have with the tactical arm is not necessarily the best one.
Right.
Especially when that is the arm being used to come and kick down your door or, deal with anything which is high risk. And so most of the interaction is not the best opportunity to showcase that human side. That is true. What we do to mitigate against that is from time to time, we will set up maybe some snap VCPs, and we interact with the public. We use that opportunity to engage and be nice, be calm, be modest, be respectful, and show them that, hey, we are humans too. And even though someone may get a ticket, they get it with a smile. And that is one of the opportunities that we use to interface or interact with the public outside of that that is deemed to be aggressive. What we have also done as well is we have incorporated certain activities in the community to assist. So, for example, we have started something, it's actually the second year now, that we, from the tactical arm, we play against Newtown. Now, this is not the Newtown football team, but members in the community playing against the police. The tactical arm, as it were. I'm happy to say that for 2 consecutive years we have won, and so we got a curveball this year where Newtown would have organized to bring in a team from Antigua, and I'm not happy to say that they did give us some real blows. So that team from Antigua, which they brought in to play against us, they gave us 5-0. But it was fun, it was nice, and it gives an opportunity to interface with the public other than when it comes to work. We also participate in a number of activities, maybe like some fun days and that kind of thing, and we sometimes host a little barbecue here or there. We invite members from the public, we play some domino, have a chill, and so that is some of the means which we use to sort of give the public that assurance that, hey, we are members of the community as well, because we do have families within the community. But the public sometimes needs to understand that each department has their role. And like, for example, you ask a question about how the public perception is. And I will tell you how that can be construed wrongly at times. Let's take, for example, a VCP taking place in the night, sometime after 7 p.m. The officers are trained that they should always anticipate a high level of risk, because we do not know what is waiting for us on the other side. When you have experience and exposure being in different territories, different countries, and you see the possibilities, your eyes are open. So something as simple as, if 2 officers are walking up to a vehicle in the night after 7 p.m. who pulls up in a traffic stop, the vehicle remains with its glasses up and it's very heavily tinted. How should those 2 officers approach the vehicle? How do we know if the persons inside of that vehicle are armed and dangerous, just committed a robbery, a murder, whatever the case is? How do we know? It therefore means that the public must have that level of cooperation or understanding that if you are approaching a simple traffic stop, the protocol should be turn down your windows, turn off the roof lights, and turn off the music. And you might ask, why turn off the music? Well, how do we know if that person did not just kidnap someone and have them in the trunk? And these are realities of life. But sometimes we operate under the guise that we are in such a haven that we're not exposed to certain criminal elements from outward. And so we have to be careful, because there are persons traveling here daily. And some of the persons passing through our borders are not the nicest people. And so we have to be very careful. And because of that, we have to put certain protocols in place. So if an officer from the tactical arm is approaching a vehicle who fails to, in the night, turn down, and you can't see who is inside of the vehicle, they will only approach the vehicle with guns drawn. Because that is what they are trained to do. And they should do nothing less. When the situation in the view is not an escalated one, or it is safe, that is when they will holster. And that is protocol. So the public needs to understand that we have to do our part as well in this regard. And I use that simple example. Another thing that I think the public misconstrue is that they are trained to always see a level of threat and hand skill. So if the tactical arm shows up, dealing with a situation where there was a fight, someone was stabbed, a shooting, someone was shot, a robbery, oftentimes you see a host of persons from the public who don't naturally respect the fact that the police have arrived. And so you find everyone coming around. Sometimes the police may have a suspect, and those persons are trying to take the suspects from the police. And that is very dangerous. It is extremely dangerous because remember, you are dealing with persons who are seeing threat. And so when you create that cluster around them, they now appear to be under a level of threat, because we have had situations even in Nevis where that would have taken place some years back, and an officer who was there trying to part a fight,
Yes.
you know. Somebody came in, broke a bottle and stabbed him. And I don't think he ever fully recovered from that. I think to this day, even though he's not a police anymore, he's still experiencing difficulties because of it. We have had issues where officers would have been stabbed in these situations. And so when the police is addressing a matter, the public needs to respect themselves enough to allow the police to address it. If you feel like the police is doing something wrong, be the best witness. So if you want to videotape and say, look, the officer is doing this, whatever the case is, be the best witness, because not all police officers do the right thing. We understand that. But what you don't want to do is become a part of the problem or escalate the situation even further by attempting to what we will deem as obstruction, trying to take the suspect or trying to prevent the police officer from moving. So that is what we have to be careful with. And we try as much as possible to have the officers prepared for different type of events. And so we ensure that when a patrol is out, they don't just carry lethal, they carry non-lethal as well, just in case. You might have to deal with someone who is having a mental issue and you don't want to use anything lethal. So we have to find ways to subdue that individual and assist where possible. And so we try to ensure that we have the tools needed to address the situation as it is presented at the material time. And I would say those are two of the main things that the public may have a different view on, and persons will have a chance to say if they agree or disagree, but we just have to be careful. I can say this. I have never seen a situation where a robbery has taken place. Someone might be there, let's say the robber is there with a firearm, whatever the case is, and the public will go there and try to deal with that person.
Right.
They will wait for the police to come and address the situation. Well, if you're not brave enough to go to that individual who is armed, why go to the police and try to overrun the police?
Right.
You know why? Because it's the level of expectancy that our task is to uphold the law. But we are taking things for granted because we cannot control anyone's behavior. We can put protocols in place, we can hope for the best, but you can only control your own behavior. So I recommend to persons in the public, control your behavior, because we cannot control anyone else's. And those officers who mess up, do the wrong thing, I'm also utilized at times to prosecute those persons. And so we do have systems in place, we have professional standards, so you can make a report too. If these officers violate in any way, or you feel like they have disrespected one of your rights or done something wrong. But what you should not do as the public is to become a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. That is my recommendation.
Inspector Boone, my mind journey while you were speaking, that we need an outreach program when it comes to how we can help the public to better understand, especially the different roles of the organization and the tactical unit. As you spoke today, it sent me in that direction. And I want to thank you so much for all that you have said this morning. I would just have to say wow. wow. And the challenges to come. So I'm going to ask you, what's some of your biggest one, at least one, we're going to wrap up now, of your biggest challenge that you have faced performing your duties?
One of the main challenges, if I were to say the main one, it would be to more or less navigate. And when I say navigate, I mean specific to manpower. The level of requirement that is being expected of you to what you may actually have is
Yes.
when you juxtapose it, it's a very big disparity. And so it takes a lot out of the men. In most cases, if, let's say, there's an uptick in crime in any way, shape, or form, before you would seize rest days and so for the entire organization, the first step taken is to seize rest day for the tactical arm. And we run drills sometimes because we never know when there can be a riot or whatever the case is, where no matter where you are, you have to report to the base. Every single person has to report. And so in most cases, when things are happening, and you see a swarm of police officers on the scene, and you're thinking, well, that's a lot of police. You just may not know that these are persons who was at home with their wives, their children, relaxing, out at dinner, and received a call and has to respond and had to come back in, change very quickly, and out on the road to assist with the situation. So you may not see that aspect of it. And the greatest challenge I can say is that sometimes, based on all of the needs, and we know we have to get certain things done, it is to say, you know what, I think they have done a lot this week, this month. We may not be able to do this, so let's cut back on this to give them a chance, to be fair to them, because they have families too. But based on the level of requirement which is needed, in most cases, persons from the tactical arm don't get to spend that much time with their families because it's a lot of work. And so that is why you have to thank the public and those persons who they are with, who are there for them in time of need and understand, hey, they are doing something for the love of the country. And so that, I would say, is the greatest challenge, being able to navigate that aspect of it and be fair to persons in terms of getting at least some time for respite and all of that. But in order to get the task done, we have to double up. That is just the reality.
Understand.
Yes, please.
I have two important questions that I want to get in. How do you see the role of the tactical unit evolving as the crime patterns change? We are seeing the crime patterns change in St. Kitts and even around the world. How?
Well, I think in terms of evolving, what I can envision is that we will have to reach to a stage where we don't wait until certain things happen. So I'm going to throw something out there. In terms of resilience to terrorism, because perhaps we don't take this thing seriously, but the islands of the Caribbean are deemed as what we call soft targets in transnational crimes. And so you may not be able to get certain things done in some of these places, like in the US and that kind of stuff. You may have a diplomat or somebody very important who is coming to the Federation, and it's announced that this person is coming, and we don't know what entities will say, you know what, let's set up shop in this island so we can either capture this person, do this, do that. And so we have to be careful where that is concerned. And I think we need to start building a resilience to certain things. Not because we are not there yet. We should not wait until we are there to start building resilience to it. Something as simple as when we have the Governor General or the Prime Minister at an event, the protocols should be different. And these are things that sometimes we take for granted, but because they are head of state. But I think we need to shift into a mode where operationally things are being done different. In order to get that done, however, it will only be possible if you have either more manpower or if some of the duties are not there, as it were, because I think it's time that we start shifting to police doing police work and leave certain security functions for security companies. I think that is the avenue we should start shifting towards. But I would say that is one of the areas where we can really make a change or make a difference in building that level of resilience so that we can operate not just on the local scene, regionally and internationally.
Thank you so much. When persons join the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, especially the young men, everybody wants to gear towards the tactical unit. What message would you give or share to the young people who might be interested in joining the tactical unit?
Well, before time, it would be about, trying to pass your exams and being fit and all of that. But I would say if you have a desire, a passion or love for that area and you want to be in that field, I will encourage those persons to ensure that you can stay on the straight and narrow. Because when you start being exposed to certain things within these departments, it is very easy for someone who is not that grounded to be sidetracked. When you go on a scene or you go to search somebody's house and you see that that person was apprehended with over $100,000, how do you respond to that? And so you have to be grounded. I would encourage persons who wish to enter into that field too. And it's a quote which I'm happy to say on here that I love and that has grounded me. If you have a plan and a vision, you have to work towards it. And it's a quote by Norman Vincent Peale, who was an author and progenitor of positive thinking. And it says, develop a thought indelibly on your mind, a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. Hold on to that thought tenaciously, never permit it to fade. Your mind will seek to develop that picture. So if that is your love and your passion, work towards it and you will get there.
Inspector Boone, thank you so much for joining me this morning on Policing with You. I want to thank ZIZ, the listening and viewing audience, for having us this morning. Inspector Boone, I think I'm going to bring you back. There's a lot more to be said. I want to thank everybody. Have a good day. Thank the Almighty God for his time that he has lent us to be here. See you next time. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane.
Tell me what you think about Marcus. Tell me what you think about